Sure. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Braintree Town Council meeting for Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. Could everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could you please remain standing for a moment of silence for our men and women in uniform. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Could we have the roll call? Could we have the roll call, please?
Councilor Barrica? Here. Councilor Flaherty? Here. Councilor Hume?
Here.
Councilor Maglio?
Here.
Councilor Moran?
Here.
Councilor Quilty?
Here.
Councilor Reynolds? Currently not here. Councilor Ringus?
Here.
Councilor Ryan?
Here. So the first item we have on our agenda is that it's a very special evening tonight, because tonight is going to be the last meeting for Councilor Shannon Hume that she'll be attending. And before I say anything, I wanted to ask if Councilor Hume would like to say something first.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few things. First of all, good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I had to write it down because this isn't going to be easy. What a journey it's been these last 18 years. 6 years on the school committee, 12 years on the town council, as well as members. I've been a member of several other town committees, some of which include the school building committee, the charter review committee, the Braintree Community Partnership on Substance Use, all of which have been very important and near and dear to my heart. I find myself reflecting on a journey that has lasted 18 years, nearly 2 decades of serving the community that I love. When I first stepped into public office, I never imagined the impact this path would have on me. I especially never imagined one day to serve as the first female town councilor and later as the first female council president. It's an honor. Now today, almost half of our council is women who are comprised of strong, amazing, and intelligent women, so thank you for your service. It's been an honor to represent you, the residents of Braintree. Together, we've celebrated major accomplishments, weathered difficult moments, and navigated changes that have strengthened our community. We've improved services, supported our local businesses. Small businesses are the key to our community, so be sure to frequent them, especially during the holidays. We've invested in our schools, built 2 new schools. Happy to be a part of that. Improves public safety, our roadways, our parks, and our neighborhoods, all of which have made our town a place where people feel safe, welcome, and proud to call home. I began my town service on the school committee with newly elected Mayor Sullivan, who I learned so much from and grateful for his knowledge and friendship. I've been fortunate to serve with 3 mayors, Mayor Sullivan, Mayor Kokoris, and Mayor Joyce. Mayor Joyce, who was the first female mayor, I want to thank her for her leadership, making the tough decisions and continually making Braintree a better place to live. I've served as 3 school superintendents who I've learned so much from, Dr. Peter Kurzberg, Dr. Maureen Murray, and Dr. Frank Hackett. I've served on the school committee with many members and I'm grateful for all of them, especially Lisa Fiskieger, who I'm proud to call my friend, and my fellow counselor, Dave Rinkus. To my fellow counselors and past counselors who I've served with, we haven't always agreed, but we've always shared a commitment to doing what's best for our town. I'm grateful for every decision and debate, every late night evening, there were more of those than early evenings, and working together to make positive change and improvement of our town. Councilor Ryan, President Ryan, Councilor Ringus, we've served for 18 years together. I'm proud of that service and value our friendship. To Representative Cusack, thank you for your tireless efforts to legislate and provide funding to ensure Braintree is a better community to live in, and I value our friendship as well. To all my fellow elected officials, both past and present, thank you for your partnership and your willingness to serve the residents of Braintree. And to Sue, thank you for your tireless efforts over the years to keep the council organized, prepared, and informed. You were invaluable to me when I served as the town council president. You're the glue that keeps us together, and I'm grateful for you. Thank you. To our town employees, some of them are here tonight. Thank you for your dedication, your professionalism, and your hard work, all of which keeps the town running on a daily basis, a lot of which goes unnoticed and residents don't see, but we notice it here and we appreciate all the hard work. To the residents, thank you for trusting me. Thank you for your support, your challenges, your ideas, and even your criticism. I never took it for granted my role in the town, on the town council to represent, advocate for all the residents of Braintree. I'm stepping away from an elected position, which was not an easy decision for me. It is very bittersweet. However, I look forward to the two new councilors-elect, Ryan Sterling and Jimmy Diuti, taking office in January. I'm excited and confident they will bring new ideas and conversation to continue to make Braintree the best town it can be. And for BCAM, Bill Needham, Jerry Comic, and Wes Ray, thank you for always being ready and available to bring our meetings to our residents. You are an integral part of the success of town government. To all my friends who've supported me over the years and who have been there, I value and appreciate our friendship. And to my children who are here tonight, Connor, Emma, and Noel, and like my other son, Darryl, here as well. They were in preschool and elementary school when I started on the school committee, so they've grown up these last 18 years while I was in office. And I know it wasn't always easy on them, especially when they were teenagers and someone said, "Hey, I know your mom," and they'd make the face. Or when someone would say hi to them, "Hi Connor, hi Emma, hi Noel," and they had no idea who was saying hi to them, and they'd come home and say, "Somebody said hi to me." I said, "Well, who was it?" "I have no idea." I'd say, "Well, where were they?" Explain what they looked like. So, didn't always figure out who they were. And they didn't always like when I wouldn't let them go to places or do things because I was the rule follower. I didn't say it enough to you all, but thank you for always understanding when I had to go to a meeting or an event. Thank you for helping me with the many campaigns, fundraisers, sign holding, walking in the 4th of July parade, handing out candy, even when you didn't want to and I know you had something better to do. Thank you. Thank you for always having my back. And you know I love you more than anything. 18 years is a long time, but it's gone quickly. I'm proud of what we've accomplished, grateful for the trust you've placed in me, and deeply humbled by the opportunity to serve. Thank you for allowing me to serve the town of Braintree. It's truly been an honor. Thank you.
So I know we all want to say thank you to Shannon, so I'm going to open it up to the council. Would any of the councils like to? Council Ringus.
Thank you, President Ryan. Thank you, Councilor Hume. In 2008, our town reorganized. We started a mayor sort of council form of government. In January of '08, the first mayor took office, Joe Sullivan. The first council was sort of situated, and a new school committee was created. And they had 2 holdovers from the previous sort of school committee, but a bunch of newcomers. I was just wrapping up law school, and it was something, Ari wasn't even in school yet, and I ran for a position and was lucky enough to get elected. And our first night, I met, some of the individuals I'd be working with, Anthony Holmes, Melissa McDonald, and of course yourself. And so we sort of came into this town government process sort of together. And there was some learning along the way. I remember our very first school committee meeting. The very first thing you have to do is organize a school committee, pick a chairman, and we seconded the motion 3 times. So there's been a lot of learning along the way. I knew you then as a mom who was very involved in youth sports, who was very involved in the Ross PTO, who had 3 beautiful children, and a lot's changed in that time. And I think you hit some of those hallmarks of your career, but I think they're worth mentioning again. Vice chairwoman of the school committee, chairwoman of the school committee. We went through some tough budget times. We went through some tough contract negotiations. We had some searches that we had to do, some policies that we changed as we came into sort of the new government. Some things that were popular, some things that were not. But the attention to detail that you brought to every single school committee agenda, every single issue that came before the school committee, the diligence that you put into fleshing that stuff out was unmatched, and it was inspiring and allowed me to sort of try to follow in your footsteps alongside you so that we could make the schools the best we could. And I think you have been involved in so many initiatives in the town in the last, I don't want to say 18 years, because that would mean we're both past 30 now, but in the last 18 years, but to me, the hallmark of your sort of municipal sort of governing career is your commitment to the schools. Because even when you left the school committee to pursue and ultimately become the first woman to sit on the town council, and later the first woman to serve as the president of the town council, that attention and detail to being involved in our school community and ensuring that our schools could achieve at the maximum level possible within the budgetary constraints we faced was always second to none. And that's even shown more by I don't know anyone who has served on the school building committee as long as you. And so your commitment to those buildings, I think, is unmatched. I think you're an inspiration to so many throughout our community. Obviously, as we all know here, and I think your kids grew up with it, it's a lot of nights away from your kids. There's missed events. Things changed along the way. When we started, both of your sons were shorter than me and couldn't grow beards. So we see them sitting here tonight a lot different. So I think as a colleague, it has been amazing to serve with you, to learn from you. There's things we have not seen eye to eye on and disagreed on, and there's been things we've worked hand in hand on. And I think no matter whether we agreed or disagreed, it was always your commitment to this town that stood out. On a personal level, we became friends. You helped me. I think both of our daughters being, young athletes and dealing with ACL tears, which can be traumatizing not only to our kids, but to us as well. When Autumn tore her second one, you were one of the first people that reached out to me to sort of talk to me about it. I will miss being your colleague, but I'm glad to be able to call you my friend, and so I wish you well in your future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Baraka.
Thank you, President Ryan. Shannon, Councilor Hume, I also prepared some remarks. But months before I had decided to run to office, when it was really just a kernel of an idea, I was asked in the course of a conversation, well, Meredith, if you want to run for local office, who do you admire who's already doing the job? And without hesitation, my answer was Shannon Hume. She is the only woman on the council, and she has blazed the path for others to follow. Shannon, your service has always inspired me, and I know many others. When my kids were just starting out in the school system and you were serving on the school committee, in our conversations, you reminded me that school committee members, and by extension, all elected officials, report to residents. That one exchange has stuck with me for nearly 20 years and has been a guiding principle in my work as a counselor. For 6 years, you served as the only woman on the council, and that is a lot to carry, and I am so grateful you did. For as I said earlier, you paved the way for the rest of us. You have served with courage, integrity, and grit, never shying away from difficult votes, hard conversations, or your word. I hope you know that the work you've done and the strides you've made in Braintree will carry on long beyond the end of this council term in all the people you've helped and inspired along the way. So thank you for all you've done for me and for Braintree.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you. Councillor Hume, everyone has firsts. You know, we take our first steps, we go to our first day of school, but to be the first person to ever do a particular thing, that is really special. I don't know if I know anybody else that can make a claim like that. No one pioneered a path for women on the council, so you just blazed your own path, and it takes a lot of courage to run for office. No matter who you are, it takes a lot of courage. But to do that in a community that's never elected a woman before, that demonstrates a level of courage and conviction that is hard to find. And if you think that that doesn't matter, just ask the 5 women who have followed in your footsteps, because it does. And you did it twice over, not only by being the first woman to become a town councilor in Braintree, but also by being the first woman president. And that is an inspiration to lots of people, including me and my daughter and plenty of other people who you may not have ever even met, but you are still the first to them. As a leader, I know you to be a person of exceptional resolve. You are an excellent listener. You ask questions that get right to the heart of whatever the issue is, and I pay attention because very quickly you zero in on what matters the most. And you're not afraid to take a hard vote, and that is also admirable. Nobody saw COVID coming, and you know, I think in those moments, you were called upon as council president to invent what local government is going to look like in those circumstances. We're going to do it by Zoom. Okay, how do we do that? I don't know, but we're going to map it out. We're going to figure out how to do that. It was unprecedented and incredibly public to have to experiment with the technology and with running things a little differently with roll call votes and remembering that the rules have changed a little bit. That was, you know, we came through it alive, but you led the way, and that is something that I think you should be proud of, because I don't think that everybody could have done that. So I'm very grateful to you for your service to this town. I know that you have, I know that Braintree is a better place because of the work that you have done, and I am excited to see what you're going to do next. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Maglio.
Ryan. So ditto to all of what everyone has said. I just want to say that I don't have all of those years behind me, but I have been lucky enough to sit next to you for the past 2 years. And I have to tell everybody that sitting next to Shannon, it's like having my own personal Wikipedia. I could just lean over, and it's like a personal database. Shannon, who's that? who's over here? What is the history of this? And you have it on recall. You know all of this because you've been doing all of this, and because it was meaningful to you, and because you're able to talk about that kind of history in this body. That kind of institutional knowledge doesn't come from a manual, although we do know there's a charter, and you know that inside and out. But it comes from building that institutional memory, and I just want to thank you for sharing yours with me for the past couple of years, and for being the great support and not looking at questions as silly or as if we should have known or I should have known, and just being able to share that information because it was part of how we move things forward. And so I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for being my neighbor in more ways than one. And I want to wish you best wishes on your next chapter.
Thank you. Councilor Reynolds?
It's been an honor to serve with you. I've watched you through the years. I've served in other capacities, but I've always paid close attention to how this town has been run. I've always felt that I had a good handle on people who I think always had the town's best interest as the #1 priority. You met that standard and exceeded it. You know, I hope that when I finish my public service to the town of Braintree, that I can say this about myself, which I'm about to say about you. Is this place a better place than when I found it? I think when it comes to Shannon Hume, that's a most definite yes. Braintree is a better place. Your fingerprints are going to be on this town for a long time in a very positive way. I wish you nothing but the best, Shannon.
Thank you. Councilor Quilty?
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Hume, like Councilor Maglio, I don't want to repeat everything that everyone else just said, and I also haven't had as many years with you. I'm just completing my first term, but I just want you to know how much I have enjoyed working with you. And whenever there's anything going on, I'd kind of glance across the way to see what you were doing, just so you know. What's Councilor Hume doing? But I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for the town of Braintree, and it's a better town because of you. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. You're welcome.
Councilor Moore?
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Hume, when I got elected, one of the things I was looking forward to was serving with you, and I wish I got the chance to serve longer with you. It's been a pleasure. But I've had the privilege of working with you in other capacities over the years, and whenever I was going to talk to you, I knew two things were going to happen. One, I was going to laugh, because you were going to make me laugh about something. And the other thing would be, you would tell me, I would learn something from you. You'd have the background on who's in favor of something or who's against it and why, and what their brother was doing last Friday night, and, you know, what they had for dinner the week before, and I would get so much background from you. But I'd also, I always, on serious stuff, on the hard business that we would do, I have always admired you for, you stand your ground like nobody else, and you do it in a way that is not offensive, it is respectful, and it is courteous, and it serves the town well. I think an underrated aspect of town government is to do things in a way that brings credit to the town. And you, as has been mentioned, are not afraid to take a hard vote and not afraid to tell people why you're taking the votes you're taking. But you do it in a way that is courteous and respectful to the person you may not agree with. And you give them the opportunity to be heard, you take your vote, you tell people why, and that's our job. And you do what's in the best interest of the town, and I will always admire you for that. And I value our friendship, and I always will. So thank you very much for your service to the town.
Thank you. As the president, I always think it's the right thing to do to give everybody else the chance to talk first before I talk, so that's why I always go last. Shannon, I think we've been friends for 18 years. I forget how we met, but at baseball down Watson Park when Connor and Joey were on the same team. And, you know, I was running for town council and you were running for the school committee. And I remember I was walking around your neighborhood with Joe Sullivan and we came up to your door and I remember us all standing on your porch and talking. And, you know, I always really looked up to you because I thought you were so smart. And I remember always thinking if I had a question on how to vote on something, I'd call you and I'd talk to you because it would be like, what would Shannon do? What is Shannon gonna do? And you'd be like, you know, very clearly what you were gonna do. And, you know, you're gonna do the right thing all the time. And, you know, it's something that, you know, you were an excellent counselor. You were very tough, and I mean that in the best possible way. You weren't afraid of anything that became before us on the council. You would do what you thought was the right thing to do. You would say what you thought was the right thing to say. Sometimes I'd be like, and you'd say it, and I'm like, she's brave and she's tough, and she does the right thing. I'll never forget the night you were elected president, and I remember came time for me to vote. I said, "Aye," really loudly, and I think, you know, and it was a wonderful night. The night you were elected council, I'll remember it my whole life, and you did a great job being the council president. And it was very difficult times during COVID. It was tough, and we were all trying to figure out, you know, how to do it. And you really provided great leadership during that time. You have a wonderful family. I remember being over at your house on a lot of occasions and, you know, talking to you about things in the kitchen, and your kids running around the house and not even caring who was in the house. They were just doing their things and their thing, and I'm like, it was a wonderful family. I remember you had a little dog too, a little yappy dog. I forget. Would bark all the time. It was a little excitable dog. But you know, you've always been somebody that I could talk to, and you know, relationships evolve over time. But you know, I appreciate your friendship. I think you did a wonderful job, and I'm gonna miss serving with you. It's you know, it was. This is your last meeting. Next 2 weeks, my last meeting, and you know, I decided. I think the same night we both told each other we weren't running for re-election, and it was something that just seemed like the right thing to do. And you know, throughout the campaign and watching people campaign, you get a little, you know, mixed emotions about it, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to be a counselor anymore. Like, I have mixed emotions about it, and but you know, I think you can absolutely look back and know that you did a wonderful job being a town councilor. And you know, Councilor Ringer said it, you know, you serving on the school committee, you know, you always had the schools first and foremost in your mind, and you were always an advocate for the schools on the town council. And it really showed through all the time to me when we talked about the budget, or if we talked about any issues that came up with the schools, and you know, keeping involved on the school building authority is something that you were very passionate about. And you know, I think you've been the only member on the school building authority since its inception from the council. I think so. I appreciate that too. I just hope that whatever is next for you is you have a wonderful time. I know, you know, you went back to work. You know, you took a break from being a part of the workforce, and you went back to work. And I think you kind of you'd always tell me you got more responsibility at work, more responsibility at work, more, and I'm like, because they know you can do a good job, Shannon, you know, and, you know, I wish you the best of luck in your professional career, and I wish you the best of luck with your family, and happy retirement from the town council. So we have something that we want to present you with, and then I think we want to come up in front and take some pictures as a group, and then let you take some pictures with your family. So what we have, let me just tell you what it is. It is the record of birth for John Adams, John Quincy Adams, and John Hancock. So right in line with some of the great people that we've had from Braintree, it's very appropriate to give it to another great person, to you, Shannon. So we're going to give you this tonight. So let's have a round of applause for Shannon, everybody. So why don't we come up, we'll take some nice pictures, and then you can, family can come up and get in the pictures as well. Let's have one more round of applause for Shannon. All right, that's a tough act to follow, but we have some business that we have to do tonight. So that was under announcements. Do we have any other announcements from any of the counselors? Council Reynolds.
I just want to remind everyone in the community and the counselors that tomorrow evening will be another community meal, free community meal offered at the St. Francis of Assisi Church basement or meeting hall. That is something that it's done on a monthly basis to help families with food insecurities. I know we have a lot of instances now in our not only in our community of Braintree, but throughout the country, where there's challenges for families people you wouldn't even know, who you work with, who you interact with, even next door, perhaps might have some challenges from time to time. And this is an opportunity for the community to give back. A great meal. We'll be having a pork roast dinner tomorrow evening. That starts at 5:30 at the St. Francis. So I welcome anyone. If they think that they'd like to join us Please do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other announcements from the councils? Council Baraka.
Thank you, President Ryan. Thursday, 5 o'clock will be the tree lighting here at Town Hall, so I hope everybody will be able to kick off the holiday season. Join us here again outside, 5 o'clock, and then the Festival of Trees will open up, and we're enjoying looking at a preview here tonight in the council chambers, so hope to see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other announcements from the council? Okay, the next item on the agenda is 25062, the mayor tax rate classifications or take up any action related thereto. This requires a public hearing. Is there a motion to open the public hearing for order 25062?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. I'm going to refer to Councilor Baraka, Chairwoman of the Committee on Ways and Means, for a recommendation on Order 25062.
Thank you very much, President Ryan. The committee met on November 18th, along with our assessors and Board of Assessors, and voted for a unanimous favorable recommendation to the full council on this order, and actually on all 4 motions that are before us tonight.
Thank you. So I just want to acknowledge tonight that we have the Board of Assessors is here with us tonight, Bob Cusack, Susan O'Brien, and Robert Conley. And we also have Director Mike Esmond is here and Deputy Assessor Paul Sullivan. So I'd like to ask now, would anybody from the mayor's staff like to speak on this matter? Good evening.
Good evening, President and members of the council. Mike Esmond, I'm the Director of Municipal Finance here. Councilor Hume, I'm glad I get to present on your last night. Thank you very much for all the support and grace and patience that you've given me in my time here. I will refer to 2 documents, but really mainly on the presentation I think all the members have in front of them. But I also just wanted to call attention very quickly, Mr. President, to this document. This is the classification booklet. Both of these will be made available on the the Town of Braintree's website for members of the public, as well as any counselors that would like to have digital versions of these as well. But I'll move quickly through the slide deck that's in front of you and reference the pages that I'm talking through. On slide 2, just by way of quick introduction, what we're here discussing tonight as the tax rate classification hearing is we're complying essentially with a section of the Mass General laws that requires municipalities essentially to set the balance between residential and commercial class tax payers as far as the portion that of the essentially of the annual tax burden that each will share. As we noted here, really since the 1980s, Braintree has annually elected to shift a portion of the residential tax allocation to the commercial side, and that's really the purpose. One of the purposes of this hearing is to allow for the council to review that and elect to do that if that's the choice. Slide 3 just gives a very quick calendar of the major highlights of steps that are taken leading up till now, going back all the way to the budget the town council adopts in May, to where we are really here in December at the tax classification hearing. A number of steps happen in between that as far as what's not required primarily of the Board of Assessors and for the Assessor's Office, which is led by Paul Sullivan, but also other key components of this that we do, and this culminated in us meeting with Ways and Means Council, as Councilor Baraka alluded to. So getting to really kind of just diving into a few numbers on slide 4, you can see historical budgeted numbers as well as what the current budget is for the tax levy for fiscal 26. In fiscal 26, back in April, when the mayor filed her 26 budget proposal, we envisioned total tax levy of about $127.5 million. Right now, and I'll say a little bit more about this, we're projecting that number to be closer to $127.8 million. That's 3.4% growth from the prior year. Really the only difference between what was budgeted and what is currently projected was that we had a new growth number that was roughly 328,000 above our estimate back in April. And as I note, I'll touch on that very quickly in a subsequent slide. Slide 5 shows the valuations over the 2 fiscal years of 25 and 26. So the total value of taxable property in the town of Braintree in fiscal 26 right now is $10.48 billion, which is a just under 3% increase from the prior year. Bless you. The residential classification represents 8.5 of that $10.5 billion, so a substantial portion of that. And that growth was about 3%, which compares to the prior year where we saw growth of 5%. So 3% is certainly a meaningful growth rate, but not as much as the prior year. CIP, so that's commercial, industrial, and personal property, grew at just under 2%. So combined, we're seeing total growth across all classifications of just about 3%, given the heavy weighting of residential. This would be what I would consider to be a pretty typical year, where we would see a pretty normal, modest growth rate in line sort of with what I think you'd be expecting. The probably most important thing to note here is the residential growth rate being higher than the commercial and industrial and personal property rate. We do see a continuing trend, which is shared by most communities in the Commonwealth, where the residential valuation does grow at a faster pace than the commercial rate. So turning to slide 6, and really kind of the main thrust of tonight's discussion is the residential factor shift, which is visualized here at this table. What we're authorized under Mass General Law is to shift by a factor of 1.75 the valuation, or essentially the percent valuation allocated to each of the major classifications. So shift that. So by shifting, you're essentially increasing the commercial classification tax burden and reducing the residential. We've elected to adopt the 1.75 or 175% factor, as I said, really since the 80s, and that would result in fiscal 26 in a 17% reduction or a 14 percentage point reduction in the tax burden. I think an important thing to note, and this was something we discussed at Ways and Means, the benefit of this shift that we've historically have adopted in fiscal 26 would be to represent about $1,545 in savings to the average single-family household by virtue of the average house in its taxable valuation, versus if we had not adopted this. So it's a meaningful amount of annual savings that the residential households experience by adopting this, and it's probably probably one of the key considerations in bringing this motion to the committee, or to the council, tonight. And those savings are very typical for in a normal year for the town of Braintree, and the benefit of this shift. The new growth slide I provided on slide 7 just shows where we are. I mentioned previously that our budget assumed, I mentioned previously that new growth is valued at about $328,000 more than what the budget had assumed. That represents, on a positive note, the second year, as we note here, since fiscal 2020, where new growth did not decline. So we are hopefully on a trend upward, where we're seeing new growth continuing to grow, and also to become a meaningful part of our annual revenue base, particularly since, as we know, Prop 2.5 bounds the increases that are available for the purposes of budgeting every year to 2.5% from a townwide basis. These amounts have been certified by the Department of Revenue and hopefully show, we believe, encouraging trends in new growth, here in the town, and really capture a lot of smaller pieces of new growth with a couple of large items. But we will continue to work to present these each year, our projection and what goes into them in the mayor's budget and during the hearings at Ways and Means, and hopefully continue to be able to capture the potential, the potential we're looking at for new growth in the future. Probably the last thing to just say, and I think just for the purposes of the importance of new growth, it's important because it's a recurring revenue. It adds to our base, and it's, again, as I said, it's the a critical piece that isn't bound by the growth of 2.5. So I'm going to shift now to the commercial tax exemption, but I'll be happy to answer any questions on the residential factor and I have, I think, 2 more slides. We do also have another motion in the mayor's filing memo that's recommended, which is to adopt, as we have historically done in the town of Braintree, the small business commercial exemption, which for small businesses that are valued at less than $1 million, and I think it's less than 10 employees, the first 10% of their valuation is essentially made exempt, which provides across a forecasted 86 businesses, it'll provide about $116,000 worth of tax savings for those businesses in fiscal 26. This is an important tool that's available for towns like Braintree, and as I noted, historically we've adapted this as well. And as we note in here, the impact of that change is to increase the commercial tax rate by about 6 cents, so 6 pennies, as a result of this. So the offsetting cost is not too substantial to be able to provide this tax exemption to these critical small businesses that are able to qualify for it. Lastly, I'll round out my comments with just slide 9 very quickly. This is just provided as an illustration of the impact in fiscal 26 from the tax rate changes we've discussed, and the impact of the budget on a single-family home basis. So in fiscal 26, the average single-family home household will see total tax payments of an estimated $7,307 or $7,308, which is roughly a $280 increase from the prior year. We always highlight this group because, as we know, it represents a substantial 63% of the taxable valuation across the town, and is 72% of all taxable units. So I will conclude my remarks there and see if there's any questions, Mr. President, that I can help answer.
Do the councilors have any questions, comments? Councilor Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. President. Great wrap up there, Director. There's some really good, valuable information in here that tells a story, and it's a good story, that we have turned the direction. There's, we ran into some tough years, and I think what this reflects in my mind is the need for growth, how important growth is. There was a very telling point here that you pointed at that was called out. This marks the 2nd year in a row where our growth did not decline over the previous year. We always want to make sure that our growth in revenues is consistent. One thing that we can all count on, we all know very well here, is that our expenses grow. There's growth in our expenses every year. It's very rare to see your expenses decline, or at least not rise to a percentage level of new expenses that was less than the percentage level of the growth of expenses the previous year. It's like death and taxes, I guess, right, as they say. So, I just point this out for the folks of Braintree to understand that we have a really tough balancing act, and it's not just the town of Braintree, it's every community, and it's very, very a few exceptions of a community that has such a sustainable growth year over year due to their industry perhaps, or the type of location that they are in, the city of Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, those types of communities. But even those communities now are running into issues where the growth is not at levels that provide for a smoother transition year over year in managing the community. And this really, it goes to the argument about, you know, we have a need and a balance to create businesses. I hear that a lot from various folks. We got to focus on our businesses. We got to focus on businesses. But I just want to take the moment to say that housing is equally as important to our growth on business. And this isn't a direction to you. I'm not preaching to you, but I'm just emphasizing the fact to our residents and in our community that this is a balancing act. And we have to do it in incremental and sustainable and consistent manners to do that. So the budget that I'm seeing, or I shouldn't say the budget, but the revenue figures that and the year-over-year numbers are becoming a better story for us so that we can do exactly that we can find that balance going forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, Councilor Baraka?
Thank you, President Ryan, and to add on to Councilor Reynolds' remarks, and thank you, Director Esmond, and to provide some insight into our conversation at the Ways and Means Committee meeting. Massachusetts laws restrict the way that towns can raise money to pay for services, the services that we all count on, and property taxes are the overwhelming way that Braintree and all the other communities in Massachusetts can raise money to support the services we count on and that, frankly, we deserve. And our property taxes make up more than 70% of the town's budget, as Councilor Reynolds alluded to. So what the council's voting on tonight is to provide, whether or not to provide tax relief to Braintree homeowners and small businesses by shifting a greater proportion of the tax burden onto our large commercial and industrial properties. I will be voting in favor of this tax shift, not only to make sure that Braintree homeowners are left with more money in their pockets next year, and as Director Esmond pointed out, it's going to add about, or it's going to be a cost avoidance of about $1,500 on average for homeowners in Braintree. But also because I think, you know, our large industries and our commercial businesses, they create a greater need for services such as roadway maintenance, intersection upgrades, increased traffic enforcement, all of the things that councilors and all of us hear about all the time. And I know that the cost of living is on many people's minds, and that's why, you know, our property taxes, it bears taking time to think about. And keeping Braintree affordable is definitely on my mind. So it's really important to remember, and Councilor Reynolds, thank you for bringing this up, that Massachusetts also restricts even the amount of property tax revenue that can be raised by communities due to Proposition 2.5, which was passed in 1980. And there is no adjustment for inflation that's allowed by Proposition 2.5. So we are really bound by this cap. However, when new or redeveloped properties are completed, more taxable property is introduced to the town, which brings in new revenue. Redevelopments also bring new residents, they bring new workers, who in turn spend more money in our restaurants and at our hotels, which generates additional new revenue. So as we look ahead, encouraging new development and redevelopment of all kinds is one of the key ways that we can maintain a low tax rate for our residents and, importantly, help us to avoid the need for additional Proposition 2.5 overrides and continue to fund the services that our residents count on and that the town provides. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilor Moore.
What I am going to vote in favor of the shift, and I think it is an important, asset for Braintree homeowners to be able to have their property taxes reduced or by a shift onto commercial properties. I want the public I want to be clear, to the public that this is, what we are voting on tonight is the product of a lot of work by a lot of different people to get to the point where we can adopt a tax classification and tax rate. It starts with the assessors, making sure that the valuation of property is done accurately and providing the data to the Department of Revenue Division of Local Services for them to check to make sure that we're valuing property correctly so that we can raise the revenue to pay for our budget for the current fiscal year that we passed back in May. It also requires us to close the books on the prior fiscal year, make sure that they're in order, and make sure that our retained earnings or free cash are certified by the state, and that is not a simple task. There's a lot of questions and answers and sharing of information from numerous departments, and Director Esmond is herding cats, doing that, performing that function, and meeting the inquiries of the Department of Revenue. It is also, the Department of Revenue looks at our budget to make sure that it is affordable based on the evaluation of property that we're doing. I think the shift is important, but it is important for us to realize that the ability to shift residential tax burdens onto commercial tax burdens is dependent on continued growth of our commercial properties. What we have seen the last 5 years or more is residential values growing faster than commercial values. And last year it was probably 5% in residential value increase versus a 1% or a flat rate in commercial values. That's a factor of the residential market being very hot, and the commercial property market being somewhat stagnant as it's in transition post-COVID. We're starting to see a more modest growth on the residential side and a bit of an uptick on the commercial side, and that is good news for us because it'll allow us to continue to shift and have the shift be meaningful and provide meaningful relief to residential taxpayers. So for the folks that are seeing us as a council acting on this tonight, there were hours of Ways and Means Committee scrutiny on this. There's been a lot of work interdepartmentally before it was even presented, and there had to be hoops gone through with the state in order to get us to where we are tonight. So this is not just one night of work. This is the product of weeks of work, and I commend the finance director and the Board of Assessors and the other department heads that were involved in getting us to this point. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other counselors, comments, questions? Council Quilty?
I would just like to say, in a time where people are food insecure, it makes me so happy that we're able to shift some of the burden, the tax burden, from our residents to some of the companies in the town. So I will definitely be supporting this.
Any other questions, comments from the council? I will absolutely be supporting this. I've voted on this for the last 20 years to do the shift. I think it's the right thing to do to save residential taxpayers this money. As residents of Braintree, the commercial property in this town can have a big impact, not only on the things that Councilor Barrica mentioned, but as you try to drive around town during the Christmas season, and you go near the plaza or you go near different parts of town, traffic can be horrendous, and we're very impacted by the commercial property in this town, and I think it's very appropriate that we do this shift, so I'll be fully supporting it. Any other comments, questions from the council? Okay, hearing none. Would any member of the general public like to speak on this matter? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Councilor Ringus, can we have the first motion, please?
Motion number 1 is to apply the tax rate classification shift. I move that it be ordained that the town of Braintree adopt the recommendation of the mayor and the Board of Assessors to approve the classification tax rate of 175% to be applied to commercial, industrial, and personal property for fiscal year 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Councilor Ringus?
Motion number 2 is to the small business exemption. I move to approve the small business exemption as recommended by the mayor and the Board of Assessors in a memorandum to the town council dated November 13th, 2025, and is filed with the office of the town clerk for fiscal year 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Councilor Ringus?
Motion number 3 is as to the open space discount. I move to continue to adopt the recommendation of the mayor and the Board of Assessors as outlined in a memorandum to the town council dated November 13th, 2025, and is filed with the office of the town clerk to decline the adoption of the open space discount for fiscal year 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Councilor Ringus?
And motion number 4 is to the residential exemption. I would move to continue to adopt the recommendation of the mayor and the Board of Assessors as outlined in a memorandum to the town council dated November 13th, 2025, and is filed with the office of the town clerk to decline the adoption of the residential exemption for fiscal year 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much to everyone for your help with this tonight. The next item on the agenda is 25065, Mayor Request for Appropriation, Braintree Cannon Wheel Replacement CPA application, or take up any action related thereto. So we need to continue this to Tuesday, January 20th at 2026 at 7:30. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. So this is still in committee, and therefore, at this time, we need to continue the public hearing on this matter until January 20th, 2026 at 7:30. Is there a motion to continue the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. So, thank you. Some people are leaving right now. I would tell Shannon's children this is a good time to maybe sneak out of the room if you don't want to get stuck at this meeting for the rest of the night, too. You don't have to stay. It was nice that you stayed this long. Am I overstepping my bounds? She's telling me it's not my place to say that, but thank you. So the next item on the agenda is 25063 Mar Scaffold Company petition, request to perform work in Commerce Drive, 201 Commerce Drive, 600 Grove Street, or take up any action related thereto. I'm going to refer to Council Flaherty, Chairwoman of the Committee on the Department of Public Works, for a recommendation on Order 25063.
The Committee on the Department of Public Works met on December 2nd and voted for a unanimous favorable recommendation to the full council on Order 25063.
Okay. Would anyone from the mayor's staff want to talk on this matter? Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to talk on this matter? Okay. Is there any council members that would like to speak on this? Okay. Hearing none. Is there a motion on Order 25063?
Mr. President, I move to grant Mars Scaffolding Company the request to perform work in Commerce Drive, 201 Commerce Drive, 600 Grove Street, with the staff recommendations of BELD and DPW.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 25066, National Grid Petition, 104 to 116 Washington Street, Independence Ave, Cedar Street, or take up any action related thereto. I'd like to refer to Councilor Flaherty, Chairwoman of the Committee on the Department of Public Works, for a recommendation on Order 25066.
The Committee on the Department of Public Works met on December 2nd and voted for a unanimous favorable recommendation to the full council on Order 25066.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the mayor's staff that would like to speak on this matter? Okay, any counselors like to speak on this matter? Okay, is there a motion? Oh, sorry, Councilor Barker.
One question, and maybe Councilor Flaherty, this is for you. Is this, or for our National Grid rep here, this is to replace leaking or leak-prone pipe?
Mary, you got to come up to the podium, please. State your name, please.
Good evening, thank you. My name's Mary Mulroney. I'm here on behalf of National Grid. To answer the question, it is leak-prone pipe, but also the town of Braintree is doing utility work, so it's pre-construction. We're trying to go in ahead of their work.
Utility coordination.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I would move to grant the request from National Grid to utility work plan in the town of Braintree, recommending the relay of 325 feet of 1.5-inch coated steel 1950, 20 feet of 1.5-inch plastic 1980, 10 feet of 1.5-inch bare steel 1914, 285 feet of 2-inch coated steel 1955, with approximately 640 feet of 2-inch plastic in Washington Street from number 104 Washington Street towards the intersection of Independence Ave, stopping prior to newer pavement, and approximately 30 feet of 2-inch plastic 1989, with approximately 30 feet of 2-inch plastic in the intersection of Cedar Street and Washington Street, with the staff recommendations of Bell, DPW, and the Braintree Police.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. The next item on the agenda is so 25067 has been withdrawn, so we really don't need to talk about that. Okay. We need to make a motion to withdraw it. Okay, so at the DPW meeting tonight, this motion was withdrawn by National Grid, so do we have a motion to withdraw?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. The next item on the agenda is 03825, Council President, 2026 Town Council Meeting Calendar. Do any of the councilors have any questions or comments or concerns with the proposed calendar for 2026? Shannon, you had a lot of comments, right?
Yeah, I was, Mr. President, if we could, I don't want to sound, I'm bringing up my Irish, but we have a meeting scheduled for March 17th. I know,
Wow.
I'm just mentioning it.
St.
I know there might be
Patty's
some
Day.
people that conflict with March 17th.
Okay. So are we looking to maybe move?
I don't want to be the only, Council Moran's on board with me on that one.
Do you want to switch it
Can we
to,
move it to the Monday or the Wednesday?
yeah, how about moving it to the Wednesday? Everybody okay with that? The 18th? Try not to go out too much on the 17th so you can
See, even Director
Be-
Esmond agrees with me. He's smiling out there.
be
He
here on
knows.
the 18th. All right, so that's the, yep. Any other comments, questions on the calendar? Okay, can we have a motion on the calendar as amended, please?
Motion to accept the 2026 Town Council meeting calendar as, with the amendment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. And with that, that brings us to new business. Can we have a motion to refer everything to, oh, wait a minute, we got a same night action request? Okay, so 25068, Mayor, authorization to accept the donation, the Chinese American Association, or take up any action related thereto. We have a request for same night action. Does anybody oppose or object to same night action? Any councilors for this matter? Okay, does anyone wish to speak on order 25068? Councilor Esmond?
Mike Esmond, Finance Director. Just very quickly, this is just, the motion that's before you is a request to, for the acceptance of this gift, 10 shares from the Chinese American Association of Braintree. I think probably I could just say that these are the types of contributions that go a long way to help the department and not many other departments that benefit from such thing to be able to find creative and resourceful ways to serve their residents and try to find as many options and tools as possible to maintain and stock the facility with equipment. So we are asking for your support in accepting this donation tonight.
Okay. Any councilors like to speak on this matter? Okay, Councilor Ringus?
I think just a thank you to the Chinese American Association of Braintree for their donation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other councilors, comments, questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
President Ryan, I move the town of Braintree be and hereby is authorized in accordance with section 53A and a half of chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws to accept the following gift upon the conditions attached and herein set forth, that donor being the Chinese American Association of Braintree, Inc., that gift being 10 padded chairs, the purpose to be donated to the Department of Elder Affairs.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. So the only other item we have to refer to the Committee on Ways and Means is 04625. Do we have a motion to refer that to the Committee on the Ways and Means?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. So that's going to conclude our business for tonight. So I'd like to thank BCAM and Bill Needham for televising our meeting tonight. And with that,
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
We're
Thank you, adjourn. Thank you.